Hey guys, how you doing? Um, yeah, I got a day off today, just chilling out, enjoying a nice day by the beach, walking around. That's the one thing, like, boy am I ever thankful I'm down here on the beach now. Boy am I ever thankful for that. Like, for as much as I talk about the collapses of capitalism and the struggles that we're all going through with the COVID situation, right? When you're on the beach, you can't help but accept that, yeah, you're on the beach. It's nice. And if you're sitting on the beach and watching those waves rolling in, and it's all beautiful, and people are wandering around with their friends and families and laughing and playing and having a good time, and if you're sitting in that situation and you're not feeling good, it's because you're not there. And that's something I think about a lot, is being where you are, being present in the situation, right? I work in a toy store, I live on the beach, and so I spend a good amount of my time in a pretty happy place. And I try real hard to spend that time being in that happy place. And I also keep apprised of the news, though. I pay attention to what's going on in the world and have a very sharp, skeptical eye towards what we're being told in our media. Nothing really crazy new in the media right now. Like, everything's kind of on this back burnery kind of thing, which I think that's pretty standard fare for summer, you know? People want to live in summer. They don't want to deal with the politicking and the nonsense. I know for myself, like, I've been thinking recently, where am I going to put my political energy? What am I going to do with my political energy? And I think just today I joined the Communist Party of Canada, because I don't see much fruit coming out of our political establishment as it stands right now, right? I don't see too much. I lean towards the Green Party every so often, of course. I've canvassed for the Green Party, but it does seem, we'll see how their leadership convention goes. We'll see how, because they're steadily gaining power through time. The Greens are, and they're steadily gaining that kind of force. We need to do what many European countries have done, which is expunge the conservative, their equivalent of the conservatives and the liberals from the political process. These two corporate shill groups need to be completely removed from the conversation. They play off of one another. They work together. They work for the same people, the conservatives and the liberals. The game is as simple as it can be. The conservatives are raving sociopaths whose endeavor is to cut the services of anyone who is poor or even middle class. Like, they will cut healthcare services. They will privatize services. We've seen them do it. Ford did it. Kenny did it. Pallister did it. Stephen Harper did it. It's their MO, it's their game, it's how they operate, and it's a disaster for 90% of Canadians. You take a look at how our healthcare system operated under COVID, with the COVID situation, and you compare it to a privatized system like they have in the States, and it's a no-brainer, right? If you are arguing in favor of privatization with the overwhelming throng of evidence that we have that shows that privatization is a failure every single time, without exception, then I don't know what to say to you any longer. I think that you are gullible and you've fallen for a lie. A comfortable lie that has you believing that private tyrannies operate better than democratic institutions. That's fundamentally what your argument is. That, well, let's take this structure, which we can impact through democratic voting and democratic conversation, and instead cede it completely to a private owner who we can't affect at all, whose decisions are their own, and as they operate in this top-down tyranny that we have ceded them to. What do you think is going to happen, right? What do you think is going to happen? And so those are the conservatives and their sort of deluded position, at best deluded position. I think many of them are actually just evil. I think there are fascists that operate in the Conservative Party and are happily fascist, who probably do go to the type of places that you expect fascists to go openly and are happy to be that way. So the liberals, what they do is and they know all of this. They're not idiots, right? In fact, they're quite intelligent, the liberals are, because they're quite aware that the conservatives are unelectable fascists. Like, they understand that. And they understand how terrifying a conservative government would be for 90% of the populace. They understand that. And so their game is to say to the corporate class, who happily funds the conservatives as well as the liberals, we are going to say to the populace, oh, vote for us because we will do nothing. Which is what the liberals largely do. They just do nothing. A few token things here and there, but at the end of the day, you are still going to work for a capitalist class that is structured to abandon you and will happily do so, who was screaming that people should go back to work in the middle of a pandemic. They will maintain the structure of how this society works. They will continue buying pipelines and attacking First Nations people on behalf of the corporate state, happily. They will 100% continue plunging us towards a climate change disaster that we are 100% going to smack face first into, while the liberals pretend as though they give a crap about that issue, which they clearly do not. Obviously do not. I think if you pretend as though the liberals are on the side of any kind of climate movement, you're just out to lunch. Like, you're just plain stupid. Like, that's not even gullible anymore. That's just literally stupid. So then you think, okay, well, if let's say we expunge these people, let's move over to the left. And you have the NDP. The NDP are beginning to see the writing on the wall and to understand that, oh yeah, we should probably have a wealth tax that 75% of Canadians think we should have. Oh yeah, this basic income, which 75% of Canadians think we should have. Yeah, maybe that's a good idea. Right? They're starting to wake up and actually present ideas that are important, that actually have power to them, which is great. But I haven't ever heard them say anything about the structure of the society, about how there's this worthless, parasitic capitalist class extracting wealth, and which does nothing whatsoever. And I've never heard them come up with any idea about how to rectify that situation. Like, I mean, at this stage, a political party that I could support would be saying something like, we will transfer the shares of a company to the workers. That's what I would expect to hear from a failed capitalist system. Because the structures that we have are out of control of the control of the working class. Working people don't have decision-making power. They can't actually say anything. We spend most of our lives working in tyrannies that do nothing for us. And the NDP, while yes, we should have a wealth tax, absolutely. Like, it's obscene to think that a person should have $1 billion. Like, that's the stupidest possible position that a person can take. Like, if you meet a person and they think it's okay that there's a billionaire in their midst, you're looking at somebody who is okay, who believes in gods, who just thinks that there should be powerful people who dominate others, Like it's morally repugnant. It's ethically repugnant. It's just bootlicking, really, and it's just cowardice and bootlicking, and I refuse to tolerate it. The NDP's problem at this point is that Canadians are pretty racist. Like, we're a pretty racist country, made worse because we believe we're not, and that's what makes it worse. Like, it would be better if we stood up and said we're not. Well, sure, we have some racism, and yeah, we have systemic racism and all of that. That would be better, because that would be a point then that we could move from, and maybe influence people. But if you're standing there denying that Canada is a racist country with an extremely racist history, well, then you've got to go through all the effort of educating people about the history of this country and pointing out facts and evidence. It's like when, like, I'm a communist, and I tell people I'm a communist, and every so often I get a real dunder who's just like, well, communism ends in violence. And I'm like, your capitalist system was literally built on slavery and genocide. What are you talking about? The only society to ever drop nuclear bombs on people is capitalism. Like, what are you talking about? Like, the societies that are currently in empire building and massive wars are capitalist. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, sure, communism had some moments where there was some struggle and there was some fighting, because people are people and humans are humans, and that's what they're going to do. You're never going to stop that, right? As long as there are humans, you're going to have humans fighting. That's going to happen. But you know what we've never done? You know what communists have never done? Drop nuclear bombs on people. I don't see too many communist parties also saying, oh, hey, yeah, right, we should enslave people. Oh, yeah, right. Capitalism operates on wage slavery. Like, what are you talking about? And it's just this delusional, like, propaganda works. Like, people buy into propaganda. They believe propaganda. There's a reason why the CIA continuously uses it. There's a reason why the propaganda machines, like why the corporate news media and all of this exist. It's just to continuously delude the populace, because it works. Because, and I mean, in Canada, there's almost no excuse. Like, it really is just that we are gullible. You know, like, it's impossible to believe anything that we see or anything that we hear on any news source or anything, right? Like, my trust in any of that is exactly zero. And I think that people who put faith in any of that have just, like, lost their minds. What are you talking about? Like, all they've ever done is lie. And then, oh, now they're telling the truth. Like, what are you talking? No. Like, no. It's, in my view, it's over, right? And I do think for many Canadians, it's going to take, like, the literal shutdown of the fossil fuel system, which not only is an inevitability, but is, like, we're going to smack into it, right? We're not going to, like, how people in the Green Party especially, right, and people on the left kind of talk about how we want this to look, is that we would like to transition away from fossil fuels into other forms. Wind, solar, thermal, all of these sorts of things. But we're not seriously. We're not putting the energy that we need to put into it. We're not doing, like, we need to be doing a full-scale war effort. Like, we need to shift our entire economy into a war economy to combat this issue. Like, that's the scale that we're talking about. Like, literally every enterprise, every endeavor, every business, every company focused exclusively on fighting climate change and transitioning our economy away from it. That means, like, just look at my own toy store. That means any product that has plastic in it no longer has plastic in it. That means any situation that we can do to streamline delivery, transit, to move away from individual cars into large vehicles, absolutely we should do it. Anything to reduce the impact, anything to increase. And I mean, I'm not a nut when it comes to nuclear energy. Like, I think nuclear energy is an option for us, because I think nuclear energy solves carbon problems. It introduces other problems, obviously, but it solves carbon problems, which carbon problems is what we're looking at. But we're not doing any of this, right? We're not looking at these issues seriously. Like, we should be funneling like hundreds of billions of dollars. Like, we'll start like an enterprise for like, the government will give like $100 million to something. Like, and in the States, they'll give like $100 million to something. And I'm like, that's a joke. That's a joke. We should be giving, like, the States is literally printing trillions of dollars a day to give to Jeff Bezos, who shoves it in an offshore account somewhere. Like, what is that? Who gives a crap about that? We should literally be funding with like $1 trillion annually, like, green energy programs. Our entire economy should be restructured to do this, and we should have started that 20 years ago. That's how serious this issue has become and how it is, but we're not doing any of that. And so we're going to hit a brick wall here. We're going to smack right into it. And that's the moment, I think, that Canadians will start to take this issue seriously, right? That's the moment when this incredibly gullible nation of just gullible people, because I've never seen anyone more gullible than Canadians. Like, we're just this incredibly gullible, naive group of people who believe that we're these stalwart stars on the world stage while we're selling weapons to the Saudis and attacking First Nations people. Like, how gullible can you get? And we're just gonna smack head first into a climate change catastrophe where, like, this technology I'm using now might not be available. Certainly the cars that are driving by, like, I see it every day. I'm like, cars driving by every day, that's just gonna stop. It's not like we're gonna suddenly transfer it to electricity. It's just going to stop, and it's going to happen very quickly. We're gonna have another kind of 2020 style year where there's just this complete and total upheaval of what is happening in the society. And the people who have seen it coming, like myself, I live 4 blocks away from my work. I live on the beach, right? I've set my life up to be as non-fossil fuel dependent as I can get away with small vanities like this here phone. But there are people who are like, oh, I commute 2 hours a day to get to work. That's just going to end, and it's going to end all of a sudden. There are people who are making their livelihood using things like, we have to start talking seriously. Like, we're talking about a society that does not have access to power the same way that it used to, where power is going to become a luxury for the rich. They literally will have power, and we will not, right? We will not. Things like air conditioning, things like television, things like lights, right? We're just not going to have the same kind of access, because we will have burnt all of the fossil fuel away. And at the same time, like, I think the air conditioner is exactly the right analogy for the absurdity of climate change. We make the planet hotter because we're burning CO2, and so we have a device that makes our rooms cooler that burns CO2. And there's just going to come a moment where it's just going to be gone. And the green energy and the environmental movement has been completely co-opted by sociopaths and liars, and they just are not interested in actually doing anything. They just want to make a buck and make people feel good about it. And the absolute worst of it is that they're going to deforest the entire place while they're doing it. We need trees. More than anything, we need trees, and they're just going to cut them all down. So, like, we should be arresting these con men and these grifters. Like, these men should be hung. They should be tried in The Hague as criminals to our society. They are traitors, but we're too gullible and cowardly to do anything like that. No, these people will be well protected, and they will, you know, just like the worst genocidal maniacs in our society, they'll just die wealthy, rich, and slave holders, right? And we'll simply just, you know, go along with it the way that we always have, because we're stupid and we're gullible. Well, on that happy note, I think that's it for me. We have to be doing better than what we do. I listened to, I think I've already said this previously, but I listened to Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore is doing good work. You should listen to his stuff. So is Richard Wolff. You should listen to his stuff. He just did a recent podcast, an hour lecture about all of this. Richard Wolff with 2 F's. You should look him up. Jimmy Dore, he's now interviewing people who are going on strikes and are putting on protests, because he understands that the political system is not going to solve any of these problems, that it is up to the people. And they're just starting to go to politicians' houses, which is exactly what we should be doing. We should be going to politicians' houses and letting them know that what they're doing is unacceptable, and making them uncomfortable. That should be the goal. Okay. Good luck out there, guys. Spend some time in the beach. Hug your friends, hug your family. Don't dwell in this space too often. I think that that's important. It's important to be honest and have these discussions, and to be open and honest with one another, and to have these conversations. But you can't live here. It's too hard. Enjoy the brief moment you have. Go find somebody and make love. Go get fucked. All right, good luck.